Hi, my name is Iain Brunt. I'm the founder of Antiques.co.uk, the online antiques and art website. And I'm here today with Robert Bowman, who I believe is the world's leading expert on sculpture, especially 19th century sculpture. Robert, hello.
Morning.
How did you get started in sculpture? I mean, why did you get interested? Was it a childhood thing, a family thing?
No, funny enough, I started originally as a portrait Sotheby's, and I just completely fell in love with three-dimensional objects. I think that somehow there's an extra dimension, literally, to paintings, and I realised just how difficult it was to create an image in 3D so that it looks great all the way around.
I have to say, for me, it's actually the ability to touch it. I mean, I would love to go and touch and feel a Van Gogh, but I think I'd be thrown out the gallery. So when you see a sculpture, I mean, every way when you look around it, there's a different aspect. I mean, here we're looking at one of the world's most iconic pieces of 19th century sculpture by Auguste Rodin, and it is The Thinker, of which you, again, one of the top experts on Rodin. Why Rodin? Why did you choose Rodin? Because in theory, we didn't have a British sculptor equivalent to Rodin at that time, in that period, did we?
No, we didn't, no. No, I think also that Rodin is special. Obviously, we all grow up with those images of the kiss and think that particularly the kiss is one of the great romantic images of our time. But I think really what's important about Rodin's work is that he's not just a decorative artist. He's not just someone you look at and think, oh, that's a beautiful sculpture. He's also the father of modern sculpture.
I can see how that evolved. I mean, I honestly started my learning school with 19th century French Impressionist pictures, but whenever you mention Rodin to anybody, they always go, The Thinker. And yet Rodin, which you've displayed here, is much more than just a thinker. You know, he's much more romantic, he's much more accurate in some of the things. I mean, like the burghers of Calais, which we know are here in London, and the gates of hell, which are actually hell. And you've explained to me a little bit before, there are elements in those gates which are parts, even the thinkers in those gates, which was a strange. Why did he create those gates, do you know?
There was a commission for a museum that was planned called the Musée des Arts Décoratifs. Sadly, it never got built, but Rodin was given this commission and he built these huge gates, and they became a sort of palette for the rest of his life. So what he would do is, although the gates never actually got installed, he would look at one of the sculptures that he'd created on it and think, well, that's interesting, I could maybe take that off and use that elsewhere. So he'd cut the piece away and then either remodel it or change it or enlarge it or interact it with another of his sculptures. So it was a continual source of information and images for sculpture for the rest of his life.
And this year marks the centenary of his death. It's 100 years since Rodin sadly passed away. And then I get the feeling sometimes when I read snippets, because I'm not an expert like you, but he came to England primarily the latter part of his life. And I also read a little bit because it was about love, maybe an English woman, because there's a bit about him coming to London to buy stockings. Now, I don't know if that's true or not. Why did he come to England? Because he did.
Well, he was particularly impressed by how England, particularly the English soldiers, came to the defence of France during the First World War. And that was actually really shown ultimately by the fact that he gave 18 sculptures to the Victorian Albert Museum.
Oh, that's interesting.
And originally it was just an exhibition that he was doing. He was very friendly with a man called Thede, who was quite a well-known English sculptor at his time. And Thede persuaded him to come to England. He then lent these sculptures to the Victorian Albert Museum, and he was so touched by the British soldiers fighting in the First World War that he said, you know what, I'm going to give you these sculptures.
I mean, here it's a little bit like being in a smaller version of the Musée Rodin. I mean, when you go to the Musée Rodin, you can't believe that an artist actually used to live there. It's a fantastic location in Paris.
It is amazing.
And, well, it's just extraordinary. But, I mean, for us, we're lucky enough to come visit you, Bowman Sculpture here in St James's, to look at some Rodins and learn a lot more about this artist during his centenary year. Well, I'm going to enjoy looking around more, and I hope you come and visit us, and also visit us online to learn more about Rodin and sculpture with Robert. Thank you.